In this video demonstration, we're going to install WSUS on server C. The first thing that we need to do is go into Server Manager, and we're going to add the role for WSUS. Now, you can install WSUS directly from, going on the internet and going to Google and doing a search for WSUS 3.0 Service Pack 2 and downloading it. What I don't like about doing that directly is because it does not install the prerequisites for IIS subcomponents that you specifically need. The server roles wizard does that for you, which is kind of nice. And all this really does, by the way, when I check this box, is show me, number one, that I need to have the prerequisites installed for IIS, so I don't have to know which ones to install. And the other thing that it does is it does automatically go out and download WSUS from Microsoft anyways. So, the same things are done. So I'm going to say next, leave these default. And by the way, you can't change these. Like, for example, if I said, well, I think I really also want the IIS management console, notice it won't let me do that because it's installing it as part of the role services. So I'm just going to say next, next again, and install. And I'm going to try to pause this periodically so you're not having to watch the installation go through. So I'll be back in just a moment. Again, notice that it is downloading it's about an 80 meg file from Microsoft. Notice now that it is switched to the installing portion. One of the things we want to be watching out for that can kind of get you, sneak up on you, is down here on our taskbar. Be watching for an icon that will come up and blink at you, letting you know that you're ready to move forward in the WSUS process. And if you don't pay attention to that, you'll be sitting here looking at this turn over and over, and it looks like the progress bar is not doing anything, and it will only come up just for a few times and blink at you, let you know that it wants to do something else. So that's something to kind of watch out for, keep in mind. All right, now we've switched from installing to configuring, and notice how this pop-up is now blinking at us. And it didn't pop up and show us on the screen anything, but it is blinking down here. But look, it stopped blinking. And so if we just were sitting here not paying attention, especially if we have auto hide running on the taskbar and it's not there and it's disappeared from us, so to speak, we could just be sitting here wondering, what's going on. And so we need to pay attention to this. We want to click on that icon to start the actual wizard for the WSUS setup. So we're going to say next. Accept the license terms. It does remind us that if we've not already installed the report 2008 redistributable, we would not be able to view the reports. We could still run WSUS all day long. It just won't be able to take advantage of looking at the reports. So we'll remember to do that in just a moment. Say next. This checkbox is very important. It determines whether or not you're going to install updates locally on the machine in this directory or not. If you uncheck this box, what you're saying is, I still want to set up WSUS. I still want to determine what updates are approved and which ones are not. Clients can still come to me to determine what updates are approved and which ones they need to get, but they're going to go to actual Microsoft to get their updates. So if I check this box and leave it checked by the default, I will download updates that I have approved to this directory. So I need about 6 gigs at a minimum. If I don't check this box, I'm saying, hey, clients, this is what you need, and this is what you're approved for, but go to Microsoft and get your updates, not me. I'm going to store my updates locally. Say next. I'm going to install the database in the default location here. I'm going to use the existing IIS website, recommended. The only time that you would not hit this radio button is if you're already using your server product as a website for IIS. You already have IIS installed, you're already using it as a website. But it's recommended, as you see here, to use IIS default website as the website. So I'll say next, and we're getting a summarization screen here, and we'll say next. So it's going to take it a little bit, and I'm going to pause the video and come back. All right, and we are at the finished point of this wizard installing WSUS. It does take a pretty good amount of time. I was pausing the video, so it's not that fast, but didn't want you to sit around and wait watching the video. So we're going to say finish, collecting installation results. All right, now we're going to go through the initial WSUS configuration wizard has some good information to know about as far as firewalls. Can it connect to an upstream server like Microsoft? Do you have an internet connection? If you have a proxy server, do you have the credentials for that? Say next, this is the Microsoft Update Improvement Program. Do you want to participate or not? I personally don't believe this is the Microsoft Big Brother thing. Some people that are paranoid would uncheck this box. Or if you want to help out the community, you can leave the box checked. Up to you. Hey, whatever floats your boat. Next, this is very important because it's going to determine who you're going to synchronize your updates from. Who is your upstream server? So by default, it's Microsoft, and of course, if this is your very first WSUS box on your network, then you need to synchronize from Microsoft because you have to get them from somewhere. Or if you're going to be a downstream server for or from another WSUS box, you'd want to hit this radio button to get your updates from maybe, I don't know, let's say you've got another server called Server A that you're going to get updates from and your approval information from. We could specify that there. Port number, whether you're going to be basic HTTP or HTTPS with SSL, it'd be 443 for that port number by default. This is also a very important checkbox. You know, the two architectures that you can utilize in your WSUS infrastructure will either be autonomous or replica. By default, it's autonomous, meaning that it can make its own decisions as update approval or for update approval. If you hit the checkbox for replica, it means that it's taking its marching orders from the upstream server to not only get its updates from the upstream server, but also only the updates that it has been approved for on that upstream server. So this checkbox makes a difference whether or not something's going to be an autonomous or replica of the server it's getting the information from. Well, this is our very first WSUS box, so we're just going to synchronize from Microsoft, and obviously we can only be autonomous from them. We'll say next. If we are utilizing a proxy server, we would need to put the proxy server information in here. We are not. Next. And we are going to start connecting. Now, when we start connecting, notice what it says. We're not downloading any updates right now, just what is available to update, the products, types that can be updated as far as operating systems, applications, and then also available languages. So we'll click on Start Connecting and get that process going. All right, I'm going to say Next. English is selected as the language by default. Typically would not want to download all updates and in all languages because that takes up a whole lot of room on the server side. Say Next. Again, I could say all products from Microsoft, probably not a good idea. You only need to download updates for products that you have, but notice how there's a whole plethora of products from Microsoft that are available to us. I'm going to uncheck the box for Windows and just get Windows 7 for this demonstration. Make sure that I don't have any other check boxes checked. There's Office. I don't want to get any Office products. Again, just doing a quick demo here. But you would, select the check boxes for the products that you have on your network. Say Next. Classifications, just for now, I'll leave the default, which is critical, definition, and security updates. I could choose what types of updates that I want to get as far as classifications go. Say Next. How do I want this to synchronize as far as the WSUS server itself? Typically, I'd say you probably want to synchronize automatically. You can do it at your first synchronization after your initial synchronization to occur at this time. And you can also synchronize it multiple times during the day. You can do once an hour if you want to, if you did 24, for example. So I'll say synchronize automatically, and I could change that time to be whatever I wanted it to be. Say Next. And we're going to begin the initial synchronization. Now, again, this does not go out and download all the updates. It will download all the updates available for the operating system and the classifications that I've specified. The only time that updates will physically be downloaded will be when I actually have approved those updates. So we'll say Next. Also gives me some handy links that lead to help on, hey, how do I use SSL with WSUS? How do I make computer groups? How do I assign computer groups to groups using group policy? How do I configure auto approval rules? I'll be talking about all of these in upcoming video demonstrations. So we're going to go ahead and say Finish and let that process roll. And close. Now you may be wondering, okay, well John, nothing happened. It says it's doing that, but what we need to do is actually go into the WSUS, and we could even get to it get to right here are administrative tools, as we've done before. And under administrative tools, go to the Windows Server Update Services. And just to show you kind of what's going on very quickly, I'm going to jump over to the synchronization area on our WSUS administration console. And we can see here under synchronizations that we are actually running a synchronization right now. In fact, it's giving us the option to stop synchronization, and it's at 37% as far as progress. So we need to kind of wait for that to finish up, and after that finishes up, we'll be done with our synchronization, and then we can go in and look at some other things as well. All right, so we see that we've finished our synchronization. Looks like we have 436 new updates that we downloaded. And I'm just going to give you a brief overview of the WSUS console. We have just kind of if we click on Update Services, just an overview. And again, as you do things like configure group policy objects to have computers come and talk to the WSUS server, these things will be updated and look a little bit more jazzier. And once you start approving updates, you'll see more information here. We could also connect to a server, so we could manage another WSUS server from this exact console, much as many of Microsoft's MMCs allow for us to do. We can also click on our server name. It has a nice to-do list here, and by the way, I'm going to get rid of this to give us some more real estate here. So this is a to-do list. We have 389 security updates awaiting to be approved. These are all hyperlinks, by the way. We can click on those and it'll take us to the security updates that need to be approved. 47 critical updates are waiting to be approved. Your WSUS server currently shows no computers are registered. Well, obviously nobody's talking to or configured to talk to the WSUS server, then no one's going to be able to get updates from us. Again, more nice information down here about little pie charts and graphs, when the last synchronization we did was, and if it succeeded or not. And this also has some nice resources down here we can click on. It'll take us out to Microsoft's TechNet and look at WSUS, technical overview, community. I mean, lots and lots of information. You can get small ball, high weeds with WSUS really quick. On the updates screen, it gives us, tells us, updates installed and needed and not applicable, possibly critical security updates. We can see all updates, and this is probably one of the most confusing parts. I think initially, if you're a bit of a novice at WSUS, when you come in here and you want to see your updates, you're like, well, there must not be any updates. That's because there are two drop-down boxes here that are providing filtering, and by default it says unapproved, which is fine, but it says failed or needed. I like to just do any, and then you got to make sure and hit this refresh button up here to then see all of the updates that are there. So there's 436 updates and 442 shown. They might be wondering, well, where's the other 6? Microsoft automatically declines ones that are not used anymore. In other words, they've been superseded. So for example, if we want to see those 6, we could click on declined and do refresh, and there's those 6 updates that are expired or have been superseded by another update. So all this is kind of a filtered out view. We can see critical updates. Again, we have to change this to unapproved is fine, but maybe any again. One of the great things is that once you change these drop-down filters, they stay. So if I go back over here to the previous screen that I had and move between these, they'll stay that way. You just got to watch out for those filters if you're looking for things that are specific. WSUS updates. You can also make your own custom view if you want to. For example, I could right-click on updates and say new update view, and I could say, hey, updates in a specific classification for a specific product, and say the classification of the product was just, let's say, definition updates, and for example, let's go down to Windows Defender. So I'll go down to Defender and say I just want to see Defender definition updates and call this Defender updates only. Say OK. And again, I'm going to change this to any and refresh that. And again, that'll just show me any Defender updates. Let me change this here. And apparently I don't have any. So I don't have any unapproved Defender updates, mainly because, I know why, because I didn't choose Defender as my product classification. I didn't get those. But you get the idea where I could just see what I would like to see and not anything else. So if I go to security updates, I'm only going to see security updates, not critical and other types of updates. Kind of nice. I can go into the computers area, and this is very important because this allows me to specify and see any computers that are actually talking to my WSUS server. And by default, every computer that is configured for this machine as a WSUS server falls into the unassigned area. I can make new computer groups, maybe call one test bench, maybe call one sales, for example. And I can do different types of targeting. There's something called client-side targeting, which is where through a GPO I specify what computer group maybe the sales people are going to go into, which would be the sales computer group. If I don't do client-side targeting and I'm going to do it manually, I have to do what's called server-side targeting. So when those computer objects show up in here because they have been assigned to go to this WSUS server, I would manually move them into the appropriate group. And what's great about this is that when I am able to go to an update and approve it, like for example right-click on the update, approve it, I can specify what computer group I want it to be approved for and not everybody else. So if I approve that update, it's just going to go to my test bench computers and not everybody else, which allows us to have that granularity of approval for that. Any downstream servers that I have, people getting information from me, whether they be autonomous or replica, will show up here. Synchronizations, when they've occurred, and I can hit this window dialog box here to bring back to synchronize it now. If I want to, manually, anytime that you want to, you can synchronize. Reports view, again, I'm not going to see what I want to see because I don't have the redistributable installed. It's a very easy download to do. Just it's about 2 or 3 megs. Download it. It's like literally a next, okay, you're done, and then you'll be able to see your reports, and then the options screen. Let me talk a little bit about the options. This takes you back through a lot of the things that we initially configured, like the update source and proxy server. Where am I getting it from? Again, if you want to change these, you can do those right there. Products and classifications. Later on, if you want to change these, you can come back in here and change those. Update files and languages. Same thing again. I could say do not store update files locally. This is that magic checkbox we were talking about in the very beginning of this video when we were installing WSUS. If you don't store them locally, clients are going to have to go to Microsoft to get those updates. The synchronization schedule, again, when do you want that synchronization to take place? Either at this time or you want to change that or change it back to manually. Again, it's up to you. Automatic approvals. You know, by default, no updates are automatically approved, but you could check this box to say, listen, if anything comes in that's critical and it's a security update for all computers, go ahead and automatically approve that. We could do that just by checking the box. Or we could make a new rule that says, hey, when we have this same thing for maybe critical updates only for just, let's say, Windows 7 machines, for all computers, or we could say not all computers, just salespeople. Sales auto for critical. We could do that. So at this point, any updates that come in that are critical updates for Windows 7 are going to automatically approve for folks in the sales computer group, which is kind of cool. So we could do that. This computers link here, by default, it's saying we're going to assign computers manually doing server-side targeting. If we want to use client-side targeting through a GPO, we want to hit this radio button to specify that. It's a pretty important modification to make. I'm going to go ahead and say that right now and do that. Server cleanup wizard, kind of a nice thing. We can specify after a period of time if we've not used certain updates, and 30 days is the magic number. We want to get rid of them. So unused updates and update revisions, computers not contacting the server for more than 30 days, get rid of them out of the computer groups or unassigned computers, unneeded update files, expired updates, superseded updates. Just kind of keeps everything clear in the database. Reporting rollup, if you want to get information from your replica downstream servers or not. When you're talking about your reporting, you can choose to include that information or not. Email notifications, if you want to be informed whenever updates are synchronized, you can specify that. Send status reports to certain people, and specify an SMTP server, because remember, an SMTP server is for sending on port 25. You know, your Exchange box, you'd have to specify that if you're using another SMTP server. Not necessarily concerned about POP3 or IMAP for port 10. We just want to figure out how to send those notifications. Here's the Microsoft Update Improvement Program. I want to be paranoid. Let's uncheck the box here and say OK. Personalization. Again, do I want to include information when I view my actual overall WSUS screen here, or do I just want to see my server alone, not everything else? On the to-do list, remember we saw the to-do list earlier. This tells us, these checkboxes are going to tell us what we want to see or what we don't want to see on that to-do list. So you say, well, I don't really want to know about computers that have not reported for more than 30 days. Well, then uncheck the box and you won't see those items on the to-do list. I don't really care that it says that SSL is not enabled. Well, uncheck the box and you won't see that. And then finally, if you say, you know, I really just like that wizard that popped up when I first installed WSUS, and I'd like to go through that again, we'll just click on WSUS Server Configuration Wizard, and you'll see this same exact wizard that you went through the very first time. So a lot of good information here, a lot of important information for WSUS. And that's just kind of a nice overview and feel for WSUS when you first get in. That's all I got for this video. Thanks.